The Civil War, 1861 to 1865. Our goals for this video are to understand the goals that the North and South, the Union and Confederacy, had as we began this conflict, and how some of the early battles shaped the scope of the war. For the North, or the Union, they fully believed that this was a civil war, that the South was not its own independent nation. It was a group of rebels who were just lashing out against the idea of a strong federal government. And to make our Constitution, our great American democratic experiment, successful, they had to keep the country together. If you could just have groups leave because they don't agree with something, then the whole entire nation would collapse, and it would be a series of 20 different states that would be all with their own purpose, and it would be very unsuccessful. The common belief is that the goals for the North at the beginning of the war were to end slavery, and that is not true. And we're going to see that a little bit later because of the need to keep border states in the country. The South, well, they left because they wanted their individual rights, their freedom, their state's right to have things like slavery. They cited the Declaration of Independence and how we broke away from Britain because King George III was a tyrant who had too much control over the people. Well, they felt that the national government, especially under Lincoln, who they felt was an abolitionist, would have too much power over what they believed was their rights. So they considered it a legit war between their nation and the United States of America. We talked about a little bit the border states. Border states were slave states who decided to stay within the United States. And as you can see, they're in the middle. They're kind of slanted with the pinkish: Kentucky, Missouri, Maryland, and Delaware. Now, the interesting thing is Virginia actually splits in two. This is where we get the creation of West Virginia, because the counties in the northwest of Virginia wanted to stay with the Union. It was very, very important for the United States to keep these border states because Washington, D.C. is located in between Maryland and Virginia. If Maryland goes to the south, then we lose our capital to a foreign nation. Not good. Some of the strengths and weaknesses as each side determined whether we're going to go to war. Obviously, the strengths for the North, you had the factories, you had the industry, you had the more people, the transportation, a navy. You had a lot of things going on. But you had to also try to conquer people from a far away distance. The South, hey, you're fighting for your independence. You actually want to leave, so you're going to support yourself better. But man, they're at a disadvantage when it comes to transportation, when it comes to resources, when it comes to factory, even people. And 1/3 of your population are slaves who you're obviously not going to have fight for you. So a lot of issues there. Leadership. Good old Abe Lincoln, we know, was elected President of the United States. But the dude doesn't have a lot of experience, and we're going to see how that's going to be both successful at times and very helpful, but a negative at the start. On the other hand, Jefferson Davis, the President of the South, as you can see, had a lot of experience. This isn't going to serve him well because of the way that the South runs their government at the time. All of the military generals were originally part of the United States, so they had to make the decision, just like people, are you going to stay with the United States, or are you going to go with the Southern view with slavery and with the Confederacy? The leader of what ends up being the Confederacy is Robert E. Lee. He was asked to be leadership on both sides. So this is a hugely important military commander at the time who decided to go with his state instead. And that was going to be a decision a lot of people had to make. Now, we said that Lincoln wanted to keep the Union together, and he's going to try to do that by not destroying the South. If you want to have everybody come back together and be happy, you don't want to destroy them and make them bitter at you the entire time. So we're going to look at just a few of the conflicts real quick. Going to try not to have it up here too long. The strategy for the Union, and we're going to see this visually in a moment, was something called the Anaconda Plan. It's going to have 3 parts. The first part is the first bullet there: to block all southern ports, cut off their manufacturing, their trade with other countries, their ability to gain alliances. The second part is seizing the capital of the Confederacy, Richmond, Virginia. The third part is to control the Mississippi River. If you do that, you split the Confederacy in two. Let's see what we mean by this. The first part of the Great Snake or Anaconda Plan would have been to surround the Confederacy. You can't let them trade anything out, communicate out, or get anything back in. So we're going to suffocate them, squeeze them to where they have no oxygen and have to give up. The second part we said is gain control of the Mississippi. If you can do that, you've split this part of the Confederacy from this part. And just like how the British had tried to split us in two during the American Revolution, had they done that, it would have been easy to conquer one side or the other. Here, we are going to be successful on it, and it's going to make conquering the South a little bit easier. The third component is to get Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the Confederacy. We'll give the adage, if you cut a chicken's head off, the body runs around for a little bit. There's muscle memory there. Well, if you get rid of the government of a nation, the people aren't going to know what to do. They're going to run around all crazy. There's not going to be leadership. You take the teacher out of the classroom, the class is going to go a little different. So we're going to have some problems there. Now, the Confederacy, on the other hand, hey, come down, attack us, whatever. We're going to protect ourselves, but we're not going to try to gain land. We're just going to wait you out. Hopefully you give up after a while. The people don't believe in the causes of the war, and they just gain their freedom. There were a few conflicts. I'm going to flip through them real quick, just have the impact of one of them. The first battle was Fort Sumter. As you can see the information up there, this was the last remaining U.S. fort in Confederate land. Lincoln has a decision, is he going to go and get that fort and start the war? He does not send military troops, and because of this, the South takes it. The South fires the first shot, and they are officially the starters of the Civil War. Fort Sumter is a base in South Carolina. We also have like the first line fighting kind of battle, Battle of Bull Run. The Union marches south to capture Richmond. People are going along to just watch. It's like a show. Well, because of a lot of things that we will get to talk about later, the Union is very unsuccessful in doing this, and this is going to show that, whoa, both of these sides don't know what they're doing yet, and this war is not going to end in 5 minutes. A lot of people in the North thought that they'd just come down and crush the South. We'll skip that for now. Another aspect of the conflict is the naval warfare. The South, we know, is at a disadvantage because of their lack of industry. Well, they end up changing things around and building what's called an ironclad. So instead of having a wooden ship, putting metal on it. This is very successful at first, but of course the Union's going to be able to produce more of these. And this eventually makes the Union blockade even stronger. As we can see, wooden ships are no longer going to work anymore. And once the Union starts making these, the South is never going to be able to break that blockade. We're also going to see the Battle of Antietam. After a year into the war, General Lee and the Confederacy's going, okay, we can't wait this out. This is going to take too long. And Lee makes us an offensive into Maryland. Well, we'll get some more details, but as you can see, this ends up being a day-long battle, one of the bloodiest days in American history. 23,000 Americans die in one day. I'll let that sink in. The Union is going to claim victory, but this is not going to have a huge impact besides the loss of life and the impact that's going to have on both sides' leadership. The final aspect we want to talk about is gaining control of the Mississippi in the West. That is going to happen under General Ulysses S. Grant of the Union by capturing forts on both ends of the Mississippi. We're going to start with Shiloh, Tennessee, and this is going to allow the Union to control the North. They're going to have other commanders come in on the southern end, gain New Orleans, and we're going to slowly but surely work our way to splitting the South in two. That is kind of the beginning of the war and some of the major battles as we move forward, and we'll clarify them more in class.